Mandalorian is a new TV series on Disney Plus, and this series stars Pedro Pascal as a titular character, the Mandalorian. And before I get into this review of this new extraordinary TV series, I would like for you guys to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button so you get all the reviews that drops within the days, within the week. So, if you like everything you see, till then, let's enjoy this journey. So, The Mandalorian takes place within the Star Wars universe. It takes place 6 years after the Return of the Jedi. And it follows this character who's being played by Pedro Pascal. He plays this character known as the Mandalorian, or you can call him Mando. Most characters in this series nickname him Mando because we don't really get his true name in this series. Before the series started, people thought that this character, the Mandalorian, is a character that we know as Boba Fett. Those of you who don't know what Mandalorian or what Mandalore is a planet in the Star Wars universe. The civilians that live on this planet, we call them Mandalorians. And some Mandalorians are bred to be warriors at birth. And they join this creed and they wear one of the strongest armors in the universe, and they go up against the most fearsome foes that the universe has ever seen. One of the most popular characters that's from this planet is Jango Fett, and he had a son, well, a clone son, and Boba Fett, but he's not from the planet Mandalore, but he does wear Mandalorian armor. Just to let you know that Boba Fett died in the Sarlacc pit, and there's been some books where he survived the Sarlacc pit, but those books are no longer canon. So yes, this Mandalorian character is a separate character. He is not Boba Fett. You follow this bounty hunter while he goes to planet hunting for bounties. Then he decides to track this one bounty, and then after he soon discovers what this bounty is, this bounty changes his life forever. The best way to describe this Mandalorian character, he is a man of few words. He honors his Mandalorian creed by never removing his mask. And also the Mandalorian is certified fresh on the tomato meter because he is considered one of the top bounty hunters in the universe. And Mando is hired by Carl Weathers' character, and speaking of that, I'm glad that Carl Weathers is in this series as well. I mean, I saw him as Apollo Creed in the classic Rocky movies, and just glad seeing him on this show. When I was watching this series, my dad was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's in it. Okay, I'm intrigued now. Definitely brings a little bit of nostalgia to feel by bringing in Carl Weathers, so that was a good feeling to have. So Carl Weathers' character gives Mando a new bounty, and then Mando tracks down this asset, and then he soon discovers that this asset is, minor spoiler alert, Baby Yoda. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the Mandalorian show, if you have been on Facebook, you will more likely have seen memes or have seen news or toys revolving around Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda is an asset that Mandalorian has to protect. Soon he faces a dilemma while deciding whether or not he should protect this Yoda. The reason why we call them Baby Yoda, because in the classic Star Wars movies and all the Star Wars movies, if you look back at the Star Wars lore just by his movies, we don't know the true backstory of Master Yoda's homeworld. We don't know what happened to Master Yoda's race. We don't know what kind of food his race eats. We don't know anything. So introducing Baby Yoda, we call him Baby Yoda because we don't yet have a classification on the race, what species he is. Whew, that was a lot of ground to cover. So let's get into the pros, the things I really enjoyed about this series. Like, yes, this series was great, but one of the things I really like about this series, what I was really blown away, was Pedro Pascal's performance. Yes, Pedro Pascal, he plays a Mandalorian, and he has a helmet through each episode. He never removes it. You never see his face, maybe like a small little shot later in the season. And one of the things I really like about this character is he's able to convey emotion through body language. This is a huge task for actors to do in the industry. Without able to show facial expressions, sometimes the audience cannot connect with a character on an emotional level, because that's the best, because seeing is believing. If he's sad, you understand that Mando is sad. If he's like conflicted or facing a dilemma, you actually feel and see that this character is feeling some type of way. Definitely, from my point of view, I had to say that Pedro Pascal's character, the Mandalorian, was so great that he was able to show facial expressions just by looking at his helmet. And he showed more facial expressions than Kristen Stewart in an average movie. This season right here was directed beautifully. Basically consists of 8 episodes and had a few different directors that gave their own style to it. I've had to say that the highlight director in one of these episodes was Deborah Cho. She directed episode 3 and she directed and also she directed episode 7. And also, she's going to direct the upcoming Kenobi series on Disney Plus, and she definitely directed the hell out of those 2 episodes. And no, I'm not going to go into spoilers in this episode, but I do have to say that this season, it follows a story revolving around, Baby Yoda. It's basically, each episode is basically his own separate entity, its own separate story that kind of gives the series a little bit of filler. Let's just say you're watching NCIS or something like that. With NCIS, each week has its own separate case. And that's basically revolving around the Mandalorian. Each episode basically has its own story that it focuses on the character. Some episodes, it progresses its plot revolving around the Baby Yoda, but it wasn't the main focus in this whole entire series, which basically was one of the things I really like about it, because if you think about it, Star Wars is nothing but filler. Because the way it was created, basically created off of basic serial adventures. The series had used practical effects. It had some good scenery. Each planet felt different. It felt authentic, different from one another. It felt like its own actual planet. It didn't feel like it was recycled from other planets, like other movies tried to do. Gina Carano, she makes an appearance in this series as well. I have to say, this is probably one of the best work I have ever seen Gina Carano in, and she was in Haywire, and I feel like her performance was pretty good, like on a physical standpoint, but her acting was a little bit wooden. But in this series, there was an episode, I would say like the season finale, where she had to show dramatic emotions in some dramatic scenes, and Gina Carano definitely pulled it off. I gotta say, the action sequences was on par. And one of the things I like about these action sequences that I find fascinating, when the action sequence is occurring, either if he's with a partner, it's happening real fast. And while the character is fighting, whoever he's fighting in the action sequence, they give the audience a little bit of exposition. So while you get the action sequences, you get a little bit of the plot within that episode of what's going on. Quite similar to the first Star Trek movie, where Captain Kirk and Bones, when they have expository dialogue, Captain Kirk has this problem with his hands, and Bones is trying to heal him while the ship is being under attack. So we get a progression of his plot by characters giving us exposition while the action sequence is occurring. So therefore, the audience is basically watching 2 things happening at the same time. The audience is captivated. And the last thing I gotta say was the score. The composer is Ludwig Göransson. He did Creed and Black Panther. Yes, I love the score for this series. It doesn't feel like it's similar to John Williams. It feels like its own separate thing. It feels like it's original. The way it sounds original, but yet it's actually still feels as if it's a Star Wars score. Now, as for the cons in this series, I would say the episode 5 was probably the worst episode. It was directed by Dave Filoni. It just felt like its own separate thing. They didn't really mesh with the tone of the entire series. But outside of that, I don't really have huge cons other than a few little nitpicks. I don't know, maybe. I'm trying to think of something. I can't think of something on the fly. As long as this series has a plan going forward, it can work. Now, as a trilogy, the trilogy that's over and that's no longer in theaters, Rise of Skywalker, I'm looking at you, that didn't have a plan. Disney did not have a plan going forward. Yes, they had a director attached. He was supposed to direct the Rise of Skywalker, but that he dropped out, and then they happened to sign J.J. Abrams at the last minute, and he had to figure out something at the last minute, and he had to put in, spoiler alert, Palpatine. And for this series, hopefully, I don't believe it's going to suffer the same fate. It seems like Jon Favreau, he's the writer for most of the episodes, and also he's the executive producer. He also was the man who started the MCU by directing the first Iron Man. Going forward, it seems like he has a plan. Going forward, there's so many questions that you will ask yourself at the end of the season finale. To give the cool consensus of the verdict, I have to give The Mandalorian an A+. This is definitely a good series on Disney Plus. Definitely check it out. You will have a good time with this series. I did. So guys, that's my review of The Mandalorian Season 1. Have you seen The Mandalorian on Disney Plus? If you haven't, spend $6.99 and go for Disney Plus and buy it and check out The Mandalorian. And if you like everything you see and you agree, subscribe to my channel and join me in the Batman family. I'll have more Batman-tastic reviews in the way. I have spoken. This is the way. Ciao.